Okay, so when it asks you even or odd, that's asking you for the highest exponent. So your degree is the highest exponent. That's what that represents. And in this example, for part A, we'll do the first column first. We'll look at column A. The highest exponent is 2. So it's 2. And is 2 an even number or an odd number? Even. So the degree is even. The leading coefficient, that is the number in front of the highest of the degree. So in this example, it would be a -1. See how that little minus sign right there? That tells me that my degree, that my leading coefficient is negative. So what you need to know is that all functions that are even and negative behave the same way. If you have a function that's even and negative, because it's negative, this tells me what it's doing on the right. So the right arrow is going to go down. And because it's even, the left is going to do the same thing. It's going to go down. Okay? So if it's an even degree, write this in your notes. Even degree, the arrows go in the same directions. Arrows are the same. So it's either going to, both sides are going to either go down or both sides will go up. But they do the same thing when it's even. When it's an odd degree, the arrows are opposite. So think odd opposite. Okay? So they don't do the same thing. One side is going to go up and the other side is going to go down. So because we have a function that is even and negative, both sides will go down. And that tells me, so this means on the left side. So x is negative on the left. Both sides are going to go down. So you're going to put a negative infinity on both sides. So what it's asking you for in behavior is saying, what is the arrow doing? And it's either going to go up or go down. That's the question that you're answering. And when this says negative infinity, this means the left arrow. So is the left arrow going up or down? That's what that's asking you. For this one, this has a positive infinity. This is asking you for the right arrow. And because it's even and they're both doing the same thing, then they both go down. So both negative. So I just gave you a lot of definitions that you're going to use over and over again. So let's look at question B. So do you think B is an even or an odd degree? What's the highest exponent that you see in example B? 3. Is 3 an even number or an odd number? So what that tells me is that my in behavior for this example is going to be opposite. I'm going to write this in this box. So the arrows won't be the same. Okay? So I'm only looking at this term. And is that term a positive or a negative? Look in front of x cubed. It's positive. Good. So let's write that. This tells me what the arrow is going to do on the right. So my right arrow, the right arrow is based upon whatever it says. So when I draw my little sketch, because it's positive, I'm going to make an arrow that goes up on the right side because it's a positive. But it's odd. So what is it going to do on the left? Is it going to go up or down? Down, because it's the opposite. Good job. So, again, this first box is asking me for the left. And on the left side is the arrow going up or down. So we're going to put a negative infinity right there because the left side is going down. But on the right side, what is it doing? Is it going down again or is it going up? So we're going to put a positive infinity. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about number of real roots. So it says that for any polynomial, the number of real roots plus the number of imaginary roots equals the degree. Okay? For an odd degree, it must pass through the x-axis at least one point. So an odd degree will have a minimum of one real root. So that's a lot of words. So let me go ahead and switch over to my highlight. And that's a really important thing right there. This right here is an important sentence. So if it's odd, if it's an odd degree and it asks you for the minimum is going to be 1. But if it's even and it asks you for the minimum is going to be 0. So let's go ahead and fill out this table so we can kind of see how this is going to work. So your first step is to determine your degree. So that would be your highest exponent. So what is my highest exponent for this function? The highest exponent is what? Is 4 an even number or an odd number? And if it's even, what's the minimum for every even? The minimum is 0. So we're going to put a 0. All even degrees have a minimum of 0. The maximum for any function is going to match the degree, which again is your highest exponent. So the highest exponent is 4, so my maximum is 4. All right, take about 15 seconds and try to see if you can answer part B. I'm very confident that you can tell me if it's even or odd, what the minimum is, and what the maximum is. So go ahead and try to do that. So is the second one even or odd? What's my highest degree? 5. Is 5 an even or an odd number? Okay, so if it's an odd degree, what is my minimum? 1. What's the maximum for this function? 5, because 5 is your highest power. Who had that right? Just curious. Simple, right? Nothing difficult. Okay, let's keep moving forward here. So we're going to start putting this together. Let's write our template for left and right. So this is how you write your template, and it'll already be written out for you on the final. But it's going to say x approaches negative infinity. This means the left arrow. This is how you write your end behavior. And then for the right, you say x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches. Okay, so go ahead and write that out, and then we'll start to fill in the missing pieces. So is this an even function or an odd function? What's your highest exponent for 3a? Is it an even or an odd? Odd. Because see, this is a third degree. This right here determines everything. This is irrelevant. I'm answering all of my questions based on that, x to the third. So it is a third degree, which means that it's an odd function. Odd functions have opposite in behaviors. Opposite arrows. So think odd, opposite. Okay, so is that x cubed a positive or a negative x cubed? Positive. So that tells me what the arrow is going to do on the right. Because that x cubed is positive, on the right side of the y-axis, my function is going to go up. Because it's a positive x cubed. The left side is going to do the opposite. It's going to go down. So when we fill in let's fill in our end behavior. So the left side goes down. So put a negative infinity for that left side because it's going down on the left. The right side goes up. So we're going to put a positive infinity. What is the maximum number of real zeros that this function can have? 5? What's my degree? What's the maximum, not the minimum? 3. So the maximum, the max is your degree. And because this is an odd, the minimum is 1. That's it. I'm telling you, you guys can do it. I know you're tired. When we come back from break, I think we'll have 2 weeks left before final. So we don't have a lot of time, which is good and bad. But if you're looking in skyward and it's looking a little icy, you got a couple of weeks. And we'll talk about that, about the final and all of that here in a second. Okay. So I want you to take a moment. Let's first sketch out our end behavior. I'm going to write it. I like to write it out first. So the left side and the right. So we have x approaches negative infinity, f of x, and then we put our little arrow. We'll fill that in a second. X approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches. And remember, we're answering these questions based off the highest degree, which is generally the first term. So this purple box answers everything. We don't need any of that information. That part we can cross out. Because only the first term, that's what I'm going to use to answer all of my questions. So I want you to take a minute and try to fill in those pieces. And then we'll go through it together. So remember, this tells you what it's doing on the right. All right, so because this is negative, on the right side, it's going to go down because that's a negative x cubed. So because the right side goes down, what do you think is going to happen on the left? Is it going to go up or down? Show me with your thumbs, up or down. Okay, so it's odd. Odd does the opposite, right? So odd is the opposite, and 3 is an odd number. So this is an odd, so it has to go opposite. So because this is negative, it's going to make the right side go down, right? But on this side, it's going to do the opposite, which is to go up. It's going to go up on this side. So where it says left, it's going to be a negative infinity right here. Negative on the left. No, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. On the left, it's going to go up. So what is it going to be? Positive infinity on the left. And then on the right, it's going down. So it's a negative infinity. What's the maximum number of zeros that we can have? 3. That's the max. And what's the minimum? 1. Okay, we're almost finished. Go ahead, take a moment. Let's look at question C. I'm going to write out the template again. Go ahead and try to take a couple of moments. Remember, you're answering your question off the highest degree, which in this example is a negative x squared. Is this one going to be, is this an even or an odd degree? Even. So for this one, because it's even, it's going to be the same on both sides. So you have to figure out, is it going to be up, up, or down, down? And that depends on the sign. So I'm going to give you a minute to try to fill in these 4 parts, and then we'll go through the answers together. Okay, so because this is negative, that tells me that the right side is going to go down. And because it's even, the left side is going to do the same thing. So both sides are going down, so you should have negative infinity for the left and right, because they both go down. What's the maximum number of real zeros? 2. Good. What's the minimum? 0, because it's even. Pretty simple, right? Not so bad, you know. All right, let me check to see. Hold on one quick second here. All right, last one. Go ahead and try to fill in part D by yourself. Again, I'll put our template up. And you're looking for your highest power. That answers all of the questions. So that would be this negative 3x to the 5th. Go ahead and try to answer all 4 parts. So when you started off, So because this is negative, that means that the right side is going to go down. Show me with your thumbs, what is the left side going to do? It's going to go up. Good. So where it says left, because it goes up, we're going to say positive infinity. And then where it says right, because it goes down, we're going to put a negative infinity. The maximum number of zeros for this example is what? 5. What's the minimum? All right, we got one more question and then we will be finished for today. I got some announcements to cover. So last one that I want to see if you can try to is F. Try and see if you can work through this one. Let me go ahead and put our template up. And let's see if you can answer all 4 parts. If you can answer all 4 parts, then you learned the thing that I wanted you to learn today. So take about 60 seconds, try to do it, then we'll go over the answers together. So is this one an even or an odd degree? Even. So we're going to answer our questions based off this. This is an even, and it's also positive. So because it's even positive, both sides will go up. So you're going to have a positive infinity for both. The maximum number of zeros is 4. And because it's even, the minimum would be 0. Who got that right? 4 out of 4. Good job. Okay. All right, so a couple of announcements. The next chapter test is going to be the final. And I will share with you the schedule with that here in a second. I do have it. I have to put it up. I know your very first final is 5th period. But just be careful because your final is on paper. So, like when you're absent on a test day, you could just take it the next time you come to class. But if you're absent on the day of a final, you get an F in the class. So you really want to make sure, if you know you're not going to be here that day, that you communicate with your teachers so that you can take the test earlier. And if you usually need additional time, you probably want to start it earlier. Not the day of, right? Because then you're going to run it because it's the last day of school, right? So you don't want to wait until the end. So it's not like last year where it was on Canvas. You could take it when you felt like